Welcome back to Our Issues Milwaukee. I'm your host, Andrea Williams, and our focus has been on politics this morning. Primary election day in Wisconsin's on Tuesday, August 9th, and I just spoke with incumbent Milwaukee County District Attorney John Chisholm, and we're now being joined by his challenger, Attorney Verona Swanigan. How are you?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm glad to have you here, and I do want to tell our viewers more about you. Attorney Swanigan has owned and operated the law firm of Swanigan Legal Services since 2007. She's born and raised in Milwaukee, and she's a graduate of Marshall High School. She has a degree in psychology at Winona State University, a master's in forensic psychology and organizational behavior and management from California School of Professional Psychology, as well as a law degree from Northern Illinois University. That is quite a resume.
Thank you.
And I thank you so much for being here with us this morning. You describe yourself as a conservative Democrat. Explain what places you under that particular category.
Well, one, I am extremely fiscally responsible. So when I say I'm conservative, especially when it comes to numbers. I don't believe in wasting money. I don't believe in spending money on unnecessary items. For example, I believe that we should have effective programs. So if a program is not working, I'm not going to waste money on it. I want to make sure that we get the results for our dollar.
Okay, and as I stated, and everyone who just heard me run down your resume, it's very impressive. You have worked as a probation and parole officer, a social worker, and a criminal defense attorney in federal and state courts. You look way too young, but you actually finished high school and college in 3 years. Well, you know, 3 years each.
Yes.
Wow. So, and you speak fluent Spanish.
I do.
So there's a lot that makes up the woman, Verona Swanigan.
Yes, I actually had lived in Mexico, in Jalapa, Veracruz. That's where I learned to speak Spanish.
Okay.
I did that with the Rotary Club. And to this day, I feel dedicated to the Rotary Club for doing that. It was a great program, and I got to do it partially because I did graduate from high school early. So it's been an exciting road that I've decided to take in my life. Definitely riveting intellectually, and it has been driven by the need to help people.
Okay, and that leads us to the question, what made you want to run for Milwaukee County District Attorney?
Well, throughout my education and my experience, I've always returned home and given back what I've learned. And one of the things when I came back this time, I was saddened to see where our city is, where our county is. I was saddened to see the spread of crime that's now developing widely into the suburban areas, especially the carjackings and the car thefts. I was also saddened to sit in court and watch the disparities that happen on a daily basis. And when I ask people why it's happening, the responses I get, they're just insufficient answers, because what I'm seeing happening here in Milwaukee is not happening in the other states that I'm licensed in. There's a reason we've become one of the top most dangerous cities in this country, and it's not because we have the best district attorney's office on the planet.
Okay, so we look at and we talk about the issues here all the time. So I've come to pretty much realize that things like poverty, unemployment, mass incarceration, all of these things lead to the things that you just mentioned. So it's important for us to talk about gun violence as well as the juvenile justice system. You mentioned the carjackings, car thefts, and a lot of times guns, illegal guns, are used during these thefts. So talk about where you stand on gun violence and the juvenile justice system.
Well, I've been talking about gun violence a lot the last few months. Specifically, I've talked about it even with Sheriff Clark recently. And one of the problems, and UWM did a study on this recently, is gun court. It has to be one of the most ineffective systems we're running currently. So according to UWM's study, gun court, which is one of Chisholm's pets, it is allowing most people who are charged with gun crimes to walk out the door on probation, to have the gun crime dismissed, or to get a fine. Many of the cases are being dismissed for lack of evidence, for lack of probable cause, all problems that go to the district attorney's office. And it even cited problems such as the complaints not being properly drawn. That is a problem of training at the district attorney's office. If you're not properly training your staff, you're going to have a lot of cases get dismissed because the complaint has to have specific information in it. If it's not there, it's defunct on its face. So people walk back out the door. And I've seen it firsthand, not in a gun case, but I saw it on a sex trafficking case where they failed to put the date of the incident in the complaint. That's immediately, it's kicked out.
Wow. You said that you'd like to make Milwaukee one of the safest, largest cities in America, and obviously there are a lot of issues to chisel through in order to make that happen. How would you go about accomplishing that?
Well, one of the things we have to actually take into perspective, and I'm realizing as I go through this county meeting people, that a lot of people don't really realize the full power and effect that the district attorney's office has. So, for example, if I'm improperly charging people, that's someone that may end up with a felony that doesn't necessarily need to have one. When you end up with a felony on your record, what does it do? It makes it harder for you to find a job. It makes it harder for you to survive, for you to find housing, for you to even go to your children's school. Okay? So, crimes like not paying child support, we should be approaching those crimes from a, let me get you a training, let me get you into an apprenticeship, let me get you into the position for you can actually have a stable income, a long-term stable income. Now, does it make sense for us as taxpayers? Remember I said I was physically responsible. Does it make sense for us as taxpayers to pay for someone to sit in prison because they couldn't afford to pay child support? It's not logical. And it's not doing anything to create stable families. One of the other things that creates crime. So we have to start looking at it from a holistic perspective. Each person that we affect in that office and how we decide to deal with them impacts the whole situation. And when you decide to start working in collaborations, which I've seen this firsthand when I worked at the district attorney's office, that's the other place I worked that you didn't mention, but I used to work at the district attorney's office in California. One of the things that we started doing there was we worked in collaboration with a lot of different organizations, private and nonprofit, as well as other government entities. And what we were able to do is say, okay, this person is here for not paying traffic tickets. That's the biggest problem that they're having. So let's get rid of these traffic tickets by having them pay at least a third of the cost, get them into a training, get them some classes on how to drive properly, to take care of their car properly, and then we won't see them back here again. But we have to start thinking logically. We have to start thinking from a perspective of how to deal with real issues. So even when it comes to guns, these are violent individuals. These are not the individuals that you let back on the streets. So one of the things that has happened in the last 5 years, the murder rate here has steadily increased. And what I feel like the district attorney should be ashamed to say he's progressive, because the only thing I see progressively happening is the crime rate rising. So what we should be saying is, let's lock up the people that are dangerous. Let's not let them dismiss felons in possessions of firearms. That's not what you let them dismiss. You want to handle them and make sure you put them in positions where they're not committing crimes. But those people that are on the lower end of the system, those are the ones that you say, okay, I have an alternative program for you.
Okay, and before we run out of time, I have to bring up the topic of concern that's not only in our city, but across the nation right now. That's the police shootings of black men that seem to occur more often than not these days. And now there's also the safety of police officers while they are on duty. Locally, we've witnessed the cases of Dontre Hamilton, Andrea Williams, Jay Anderson, and others that have sparked protests. I'd love to know what your thoughts on these type of scenarios and how we can go about seeing more accountability, because in my personal opinion, I think that is the problem.
That is the problem. And one of the things about the district attorney's office is that it also should be part of the checks and balances system. If you go back to original civics class from high school, they taught you checks and balances. And the DA's office is basically the checks and balances of this community. And we are supposed to be able to keep the department of the Milwaukee Police Department in check, as far as making sure they're doing their jobs appropriately. Now, one of the things that we also have to do is we have to look at it case by case. We do. We have to be able to support police officers in the fact that some of them are afraid. But in doing that, we have to look at, did they follow their policies? Did they do what they're supposed to do? Is training proper? And as the district attorney, it's my job to do a thorough investigation, independent, transparent, and timely. One of the things that are not happening currently is things are not happening timely. And when you don't provide people with the proper information that they need to feel comfortable, to feel at ease, to understand what's happening, no one feels safe. Everyone will be afraid. And as long as we keep reacting on fear, the community as well as the police department, there will never be a connection. There will never be the ability to create justice. There will never be the ability to create trust. And without trust in these systems, they don't work.
All right, so it's really an interesting race here to get the different perspectives from each of you who is vying for this position coming up on Tuesday, August 9th. It has been a pleasure meeting you and getting to know more about you, and all the best to you as you run for Milwaukee County District Attorney.
Thank you.
Thank you again. Attorney Verona Swanigan is running for Milwaukee County District Attorney. And for more information on Verona and where she stands on the issues, you can log on to Swanigan4DA.com. And for more information on the upcoming primary, that again is on Tuesday, August 9th, visit city.milwaukee.gov. That is going to do it for today's show. I'm your host, Andrea Williams. As always, I thank you for watching, and I do hope you join us again next week as we take another look at our issues, Milwaukee. Have a great day.